The Steam Demo Fest is back, and it's time to play a bunch more games that caught my interest during this wonderful sampling season. I once again have to say that while I do recommend checking out the games featured here, there's no solid guarantee they'll be available as demos after the festival ends, which I think is a nonsense business practice based on outdated old man mindsets, but I guess they're the ones losing out. With that out of the way, let's look for our first lovely gem for lovely people. What is gaming but a series of excuses for fishing minigames? Dredge is a fishing full game, made by Black Salt Games and published by Team 17. In this game, you are a fisherman, come to fulfill the town's job offering for a fisherman. You turn up and immediately lose your ship, but don't worry, the nice mayor can help you out with a new ship for a price. And look at all the nice people in town willing to help you out as well. Say, I wonder what happened to the last fisherman. The game plays pretty simply, at least in the early game. You go out, you fish, you pack them away, you go back to town, sell the fish. Now use the money to help you catch more fish to do it all over again. You can upgrade your boat's equipment, the vessel's capacity, install new fittings on it, all of which can help you catch and pack away the day's trading. Sometimes you'll get quests that ask for specific fish, or ones that ask you to go to different towns, as a nice way of earning a little bit of extra money. You can also earn books that'll help you, that take some time to read, but you've got plenty of time while sailing. It sounds like a really cute and relaxing game about living off the salt of the sea, which is what I would say. But then it got dark. Fog rolls in across the ocean at night, and it's shockingly hard to see more than a few feet in front of you. Rocks just suddenly appear before you, and I had a few near misses. The eye up at the top too, that's your mental state, and the more you're out at sea, the more you begin to panic. And there's much to panic about in these waters. But you know, some fish are only out at night. You'll be okay if you're careful, right? Now, I don't know if I'll go all in and say this game is a full-on horror title, but the horror elements it's playing with, it is taking and running wild with them. The game calls itself a mystery game, so maybe it's more along the lines of something more moody and gothic. A mystery, huh? What did happen to the fisherman before me? Look, I'm trying to say I don't think you'll get jump scared by a fish here. But it wouldn't be the first time. The store page mentions things going further, but frankly I'm sold immediately. I can't wait for it to come out, and that's not just because of my love for nautical adventuring. The game is out next year, and this one is an absolute must-play for me. I am hooked. Inkulinati is a title I've had to try a few times to say properly, and it's also a turn-based strategy game by Yaza Games and Daedalic Entertainment, where the player draws monsters to fight for them with ink across medieval manuscripts of old. I don't know how many of these drawings any of you have actually seen, but my history books in school were plastered with old examples of these, and boy does Inkulinati capture them well. Pick my name? Oh, it can't be changed later? Well, we'll see about... Oh, damn. Well, if I remove the space, then... Oh my god, it literally can't! The game is simple. As an Inkulinati, you must fight and kill all the enemies, whether they be a random assortment of beasts or another Inkulinati. The tricky part comes in the fact that this game is somewhat cheekily brutal, and not just because there's a button to flash your butt at enemies. The battles in this could easily have been slow and monotonous, but things are actually quite brutally fast. See, not only are you raising an army fast to deal with the enemy, but you have to also consider positioning and resources. You need living ink to summon your army, so you want to end turns in these ink stains to collect them. Watch out for obstacles that might change how you have to think, and more importantly for everyone, make sure you don't fall off the edge. An occupied space is an occupied space, so an enemy can slide right off and instantly die if they're not paying attention to how things are laid out. This also applies to you as well. Also, it sets the edges of the stage on fire as time goes on, which is as good a motivator as any to keep things going. There's actually a fair amount going on with this game mechanically from this early look, but the game will require some patience still. For a start, with the controls and interface, where I just felt confused with all the menus and tooltips going on at all times that I wasn't sure who I was controlling and for what at times. Though it might be more easily digested with a gamepad, I feel. But the game is charming enough and satisfies a few witches that I could forgive this. I really like how the game writes the chronicle of your battle along the background as you play. That's a really nice touch. Inkulinati is out later this year, and it might be your thing if you don't mind playing chess where your opponent can just flick the king off the table. Now, can I have a name that's easier to say? Wippra. It's Wippra, I think. This one had my attention for the setting more than anything. The Plague Doctor of Wippra is developed by Electrocosmos and published by Application Systems Heidelberg, and has you playing a doctor, in a time of plague, in the medieval German town of Wippra. You can't fault the title at all. The game is a point-and-click adventure game in the traditional fashion, and the graphics I'd say are deliberately simplistic. You might say no duh, but they're even more simple than most of the old adventure game counterparts that it's emulating. I said most, don't throw my own videos at me. Besides, this is more of an early 90s adventure game in action and colour, I'd say. It's the setting that interests me most here though, as I think it's a really good place to do a game like this. Make some hard choices amongst a plague-ridden town. Although, maybe I'm just scarred from all the pathologic I've played. All endings, baby! The demo is quite short, but if I had some criticism, it's that the puzzles can be quite pixel hunting-esque. And it isn't helped by how simple the art is. I need to scare some rats away, and I must use a stick from the woodpile. But only this specific stick over here. It doesn't really stick out at all. I've heard of hidden object games, but this can turn into what can I actually click on in this room sometimes. I do appreciate that items light up over objects that they can interact with, so you can actually work things out that way even if you're not following the logic thread exactly. It's inelegant, but at least you're going forward, I guess. This game is actually out right now if this interests you. The Plague Doctor of Wippra. Because we haven't had enough of disease in the last few years, have we? Conscript is a survival horror set in the French trenches of the First World War. And if there was ever a historical event to pick from as a setting for a survival horror title, it'd probably be that first WW. Verdun, 1916. I can think of plenty more whens and wheres I'd rather be than right here. This game absolutely nails the harrowing madness of being in a World War I trench, even if I'm not sure that the conflict would be playing out quite like this. Then again, it was such a shit show on all sides that, sure, I could believe that Germans were madly marching into French trenches, armed only with battle screams and trench shovels. But we have it all here. Horrible, dehumanizing violence, soldiers who are going mad amidst the grim maelstrom of torment happening all around them, and swapping cigarettes for extra supplies. Excellent stuff all round. The story of the game focuses on you looking after your brother Pierre. He's recently recovered from a gas attack, and, you being French, are going to take that fraternity part of your patriotism very seriously, and make sure that you're both going home at the end of all of this. Don't worry about your comrades, I'm sure they'll be fine. The game plays a lot like a Resident Evil title from a top-down perspective. Actually, if you watch the last of these videos, you might be struck by how similar it looks to Signalis. But the two games approach things very differently. Yes, you have to aim your weapon for a good second before your aim can be reliable, including your shovel. But unlike Signalis, you can dodge roll. So you can pretend the German soldiers are all Dark Souls bosses and skillfully bash them with your shovel. Or you can just let loose like a maniac. Don't forget these are World War I weapons, so they're bolt action, and you're going to have to pull back on that manually after every shot. The grueling assault by the Germans on the trenches was absolute hell, especially when the game unleashed an armoured lad onto me. But eventually, I made it. I did it! I saved the day and won the battle alive! Is that fucking gas? Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. One thing to note is that the game is definitely best played on a controller, because the mouse and keyboard controls sure are wonky. I accidentally wasted a healing item once because the game locked me into a menu I didn't know I was in because I was focusing on the mouse cursor. No, I needed to be looking over here, see? The demo for Conscript is quite beefy. When I hit the title card, I assumed it'd stop there, but there was another chapter showing off even more stuff, such as the merchant who sells and upgrades your equipment. Conscript is probably one of my highlights from this, and I'd recommend giving it a go. It doesn't have a release date yet, but I'm interested regardless. Sign me up. Voluntarily. Oh boy, we're just loaded with medieval and fantasy games today, aren't we? Except this one's very horror-focused. Slay the Princess is a visual novel, choose-your-own-adventure game by Black Tabby Games. In this game, there is a princess locked away in the basement of a cabin in the middle of the woods. And a friendly, helpful narrator informs you that we're not here to save her, but to kill her.
If you don't, it will be the end of the world.
Due to the nature of this game being essentially just pictures and text, this is one that I'm going to have to show the least of, but I really encourage you to try it for yourself. I was expecting the game to be a bit weird just based on its premise, but what I wasn't expecting was 1 minute into the game for the narrator to argue with the voice of the hero. No, not us, not the dialogue that we're choosing, we were doing that second one, but the hero that we're actually playing as.
We're not going to go through with this, right? She's a princess. We're supposed to save princesses, not slay them. Ignore him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
There's 3 of us inside this head, and 2 of them have differing thoughts on killing the princess. What do you think about killing the princess? Well, why not talk to the princess on the merits of killing her? See what the narrator has to say about that too. There's apparently 7 endings in this demo alone, and I recommend you try and see as much of it as you can, as this game seems to have a lot of variation. One of the achievements has Gohan from Dragon Ball on it. What does that mean? Play the demo and find out. The game is out next year, and I'll be curious how many paths the game will take. How many paths the game will take. How many paths the game will take. How many paths. How many paths. How many paths. How many paths. How many paths the game will take. How many paths. How many paths. How many paths. How many paths. Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum is one of those titles that immediately confuses me and immediately captivates me to try and work out just what the hell is going on. I have to tell you what all of this means on the screen here. The game is made by No Day Shall Erase You. It's a top-down immersive sim, but such a description doesn't do justice to this game's weird aesthetic and mindset. Don't let the simple style fool you. Despite it looking like it doesn't have much going on, this game has so much going on. For a start, hacking. This game lets you pull out a laptop at any time and begin hacking whatever is in your field of view or connect you directly into the network which you've already hacked. And what can be hacked? Almost everything. Hack doors, cameras and turrets for your usual ImSim thing of turning them off or befriending them, but why not also hack a toilet to flush and make a noise and lure guards over? Why not also hack a fridge so that you can digitally eat everything inside? Of course that makes sense, the flavour was incredible. You can also hack enemies if they don't hack you back. You can even hack the bullets out of the air. Although, I sucked way too much to manage to pull that off well. Hey, why not hack a games console and load up a copy of the game, which... I really don't know what I expected to happen, to be honest. Pro tip, if you're hacking, tab will autofill what you're trying to type. Use that. Make sure you use that. This game is hard as hell and you need every advantage you can get. It's not all hacking though. There are also weapons to use, though they can be inaccurate and hard to rely on. But that might just be me who's bad at this game, or maybe it's just because I didn't specialize in them. The guns are actually procedurally generated, even down to their shape. and come in multiple flavours. You can have both a gun and a melee weapon, and I found that melee had to be the way to go if you can. Maybe even a little bit overpowered at times, but I was also doing awful without it, so maybe not. You do have to play smart with them, like the fact that at one point I saw the Dragon Slayer from Berserk, and yeah, of course I'm going to buy that, I'm a massive weeaboo. Only when I got to the mission, I couldn't swing it, because it was too big for the corridor I was in. This was a problem. I eventually settled with a war pick that I had to aim my swings incredibly precisely, but when I could handle it, oh my god, I was golden. Levels are wide open and encourage you to play them however you want. Hacking, shooting, swinging, whatever. It's all good with this game. There's not really much in the way of shortcuts, so don't assume this game is just going to have you crawling through vents the whole time and skipping the game. It's up to you how you utilise the enemy's behaviour, however. One time I wounded an enemy and he went searching for a repair station to fix up his destroyed mechanical body. A repair job that gave me plenty of time to jump his dumb exposed butt. Abilities come in many different flavours. I was taking acrobatic style abilities at first, but once you have some ego, I really recommend looking into some others, because you can do some wild things in here. I think they give you so many save slots so you can experiment and play around with all the systems here. There are secrets and things to discover, mostly for gaining ability points. And if you're wondering how secret a secret can be, one secret had me shifting to another dimension to kill a version of myself to get a free upgrade. I am being absolutely serious. God, and none of this is even getting into the premise. It's a sci-fi dystopia, emphasis heavily on dystopia, and you've recently had an accident, but you've been revived. However, it costed you. You're now 1 million in debt, and you've got to pay off that debt by doing missions for a shadowy, strange organisation. Pick a code name? My time to shine. Yeah, except that debt, it gathers 1% interest every single day. And you do one mission a day. So 1 million, that's... I need to earn 10,000 every day to bring it down. That's bad, but not crazy considering the pay on some of these works. I bet if we just pull up our bootstraps, we can break out of this, but we gain another million in debt every single time we die. And, my friends, this is a hard game. By the end of when I was playing, I was more than 16 million in debt. I don't think that's getting paid off. The weird atmosphere of this game, combining lo-fi hip-hop and this near-constant rainfall outside, alongside kooky internet talk in a world clearly several steps beyond dystopian, this right here is someone's baby. Someone's crazy, beautiful, weird baby. And I want to know more. This demo was updated for the most recent Demo Fest, and it's out on October 13th in early access. Absolutely my favourite game from all of this, and I can't wait to get into it more when it comes out. Check out all of these games and more in the Demo Fest. Maybe you too can find a game that you love as much as I love, Deadeye Deepfake Simulacrum. I love saying that title. Hi there. Before you go, I started a Patreon. If you wanted to help support the reviews I do, this would be how you do it. Patrons get exclusive content, and can also ask questions and Q&A segments at the end of videos, like the one that's happening right now. You've been very online for a while. How do you look back on the way you were, and feel about how the way you interact with the internet has changed over time? Okay, it's my first question, and it's a topic I feel like I could talk about for the length of this whole video. I've been online since like 2004, 2005, at least in some notable way, and I've been on a bunch of different websites over the years. I think if you asked me a while ago how I felt looking back at myself, like at any point in the past, I'd be more negative, but I've reached a sort of centre now. I understand I was younger, and I understand why I did everything I did at the time. It's just the place I was at, and it made the most sense. As for how I interact with the internet, well, everything's really big now. And I feel like the bigger the internet's gotten, people are just trying to rebuild the old internet but with newer infrastructure. Like, social media tries to make everything into one big bubble, but then people make their own Discord servers to make their little bubbles again, just like the old forums. They're not the same as forums, I know, but you get what I mean. I think I'm much more casual on the internet now, very happy to just exist in my own little comfortable space. I think as a result I reach out to people on the internet less now, like I'm meeting less people, but I'm happy. So, that's something. How did you get introduced to video games? That's an easier question. So my dad, used to let me watch him play video games on his PC. Apparently he was playing Duke Nukem 3D in front of me, but I don't remember that specifically. I remember he played Tomb Raider a lot, and I really liked watching that. Eventually I got a Game Boy Color, and my first game was the Konami GB Collection Volume 1, which was like a collection of Konami Game Boy games, and man, I don't actually remember having any fun with that. I don't remember liking them, and I don't remember playing that game after I got other games that were better. I suppose I should feel thankful I'm still into video games despite that. I would probably blame the PS1 for that. My first game for that was a copy of Micromaniacs, which was like a Micro Machines game, but you're really tiny people. I thought it was really cool. That was fun. We'll do this again. See you later.